now, above your head, thousands of satellites are moving silently across the sky, forming the backbone of a communication network unlike anything the world has ever seen. And for the first time, our everyday devices are beginning to tap directly into that network. No towers, no ground infrastructure, just a clear line from your phone, your vehicle, your sensors, straight to space. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's happening today. Emergency messages sent from remote mountains, ships tracking their routes far beyond cellular coverage, cars receiving updates in the middle of deserts, entire regions gaining access to communication for the very first time. Satellite-to-device connectivity is breaking the final barrier in global communication: geography. In this episode, we're going to explore how this technology works, why it's accelerating so quickly, and what it means for industries, governments, and everyday life. Because the next era of connectivity won't be defined by where cell towers can reach. It will be defined by where satellites can see. And that means everywhere. Why satellite-to-device matters now. To understand why satellite-to-device communication is exploding right now, we need to look at the pressures shaping global connectivity. For decades, mobile networks have relied on towers, fiber, and ground-based infrastructure. And while those systems have grown incredibly powerful, they still share one fundamental limitation. They can only reach where we can physically build them. Mountains, oceans, deserts, rural regions, disaster zones. These areas remain communication blind spots. And in a world that depends on real-time data, automation, and global mobility, blind spots are no longer acceptable. This is where satellite-to-device communication steps in. For the first time, everyday devices, smartphones, vehicles, sensors, wearables, can connect directly to satellites in low Earth orbit. No specialized hardware, no bulky antennas, just a clear line to the sky. And that shift is happening at the exact moment when industries, governments, and consumers are demanding uninterrupted connectivity. Whether it's emergency response, global logistics, or simply staying connected while traveling, the expectation is becoming universal. Communication should work everywhere. The timing isn't a coincidence. Over the past few years, we've seen an explosion in low Earth orbit satellite constellations. These satellites orbit much closer to Earth than traditional systems, which means lower latency, stronger signals, and the ability to support millions of devices simultaneously. Companies like SpaceX, AST Space Mobile, Globalstar, Iridium, and others are racing to build global networks capable of delivering direct-to-device connectivity at scale. And major smartphone manufacturers are already integrating satellite-ready chipsets into their devices. Governments are also pushing this forward. After recent natural disasters and global communication outages, resilience has become a national priority. Satellite-to-device communication offers something terrestrial networks can't. Independence from ground infrastructure. When towers fail, when fiber is cut, when power grids go down, satellites keep working. That reliability is becoming essential for public safety, defense, transportation, and critical industries. And then there's the broader digital transformation. AI systems, autonomous vehicles, supply chain platforms, and IoT networks all depend on continuous connectivity. A single dead zone can break a workflow, disrupt a route, or compromise a mission. Satellite-to-device communication eliminates those gaps. It creates a world where data flows everywhere, from the middle of the ocean to the heart of a remote valley. So why does satellite-to-device matter now? Because the world has reached a point where connectivity is no longer a convenience, it's infrastructure. And the next generation of global communication will be defined not by where towers stand, but by where satellites orbit. How satellite-to-device technology works. To understand why satellite-to-device communication is such a breakthrough, We need to look at the technology that makes it possible. Because for decades, the idea of a smartphone connecting directly to a satellite was considered unrealistic. The antennas were too small, the power output was too low, and the satellites were too far away. But a combination of new satellite architectures, advanced signal processing, and smarter devices has changed the equation. The biggest shift is the rise of low Earth orbit satellites, LEO satellites. Unlike traditional GEO satellites that sit 22,000 miles above the Earth, LEO satellites orbit at just a few hundred miles. That shorter distance means lower latency, stronger signals, and the ability to communicate with devices that were never designed for satellite use. Instead of needing a dish or a bulky antenna, your phone can now connect using the same hardware it uses for terrestrial networks. But the real magic happens in the technology inside the satellites themselves. Modern LEO satellites use advanced phased array antennas that can steer beams electronically, targeting individual devices or regions with incredible precision. This beamforming capability allows satellites to maintain stable connections with small, low-power devices, even when those devices are moving. Whether you're driving, hiking, or sailing, the satellite can track your device and maintain a usable link. On the ground, smartphones and Internet of Things devices are becoming satellite aware. New chipsets from Qualcomm, MediaTek, and Apple include modems capable of communicating with LEO networks. These modems use narrowband signals, optimized protocols, and intelligent power management to make satellite communication efficient and reliable. And because the connection is integrated into the device's operating system, users don't need to do anything special. The phone simply switches to satellite when no terrestrial network is available. AI also plays a major role in making this possible. Satellite networks are incredibly complex systems, with thousands of satellites moving rapidly across the sky. AI algorithms help manage handoffs between satellites, optimize signal routing, and balance network load. Without AI, the coordination required to maintain millions of simultaneous connections would be nearly impossible. This is one of the first large-scale examples of AI enabling a new layer of global infrastructure. Another challenge is mobility. Connecting to a satellite while standing still is one thing. Connecting while moving at highway speeds is another. Modern LEO networks solve this by using predictive tracking. The satellite knows where your device is, where it's going, and which satellite will take over next. This creates a seamless experience, even when traveling across regions or continents. And finally, we're seeing the early stages of satellite-enabled 5G and 6G. Standards bodies are working to integrate satellite communication directly into future cellular protocols. That means your device won't treat satellite as a backup. It will treat it as part of the network. A unified system where terrestrial towers and satellites work together, dynamically handing off traffic based on coverage, load, and availability. So when we talk about satellite-to-device communication, we're not talking about a single technology. We're talking about a convergence, advanced satellites, smarter devices, AI-driven orchestration, and global network standards all coming together. And that convergence is what makes this moment possible. A world where connectivity is no longer limited by geography. Real-world applications across industries. Now that we understand how satellite-to-device communication works, let's talk about where this technology is already making an impact, because this isn't a future concept. It's happening right now, across industries that depend on mobility, reliability, and global reach. One of the most immediate applications is emergency response. When natural disasters strike, terrestrial networks are often the first systems to fail. Towers go down, power grids collapse, fiber lines are damaged. Satellite to device communication gives first responders and civilians a lifeline, the ability to send messages, share coordinates, and request help even when the entire ground network is offline. This capability is already saving lives in remote regions and disaster zones. Transportation is another major beneficiary. Think about connected vehicles, cars, trucks, ships, aircraft. These systems rely on constant communication for navigation, diagnostics, safety alerts, and software updates. But once they leave urban areas, connectivity becomes unreliable. Satellite to device communication fills that gap. Cargo ships crossing oceans, aircraft flying polar routes, and autonomous vehicles traveling through rural areas can maintain continuous communication without relying on terrestrial coverage. Agriculture is also being transformed. Modern farming depends on sensors, drones, and precision equipment that often operate far from cellular networks. Satellite-enabled devices allow farmers to monitor soil conditions, track equipment, and manage operations in real time, even in the most remote fields. This isn't just about convenience, it's about efficiency, sustainability, and food security. Global logistics is another area where this technology is becoming essential. Supply chains stretch across continents, oceans, and remote regions. Being able to track shipments anywhere on Earth without gaps is a game changer. Whether it's monitoring refrigerated cargo, tracking high-value goods, or managing fleet operations, satellite-to-device connectivity ensures that data keeps flowing no matter where assets travel. And then there's the impact on developing nations. Many regions still lack reliable cellular infrastructure. Building towers and fiber networks is expensive, time-consuming, and sometimes impossible due to terrain or political instability. Satellite-to-device communication offers a leapfrog opportunity, the ability to deliver connectivity without building traditional infrastructure. This could accelerate education, commerce, healthcare, and economic development in ways we've never seen before. What ties all these applications together is simple: mobility and resilience. Satellite-to-device communication creates a world where connectivity follows the user, not the other way around. Whether you're in the middle of a city or the middle of nowhere, the network is always there. And that changes how industries operate, how decisions are made, and how people stay connected. Challenges, risks, and the road ahead. As powerful as satellite-to-device communication is, it comes with a set of challenges that will shape how quickly and how responsibly this technology scales. Because when you build a communication network that spans the entire planet, the complexity doesn't just grow, it multiplies. One of the biggest challenges is spectrum. Satellite operators and terrestrial carriers are now competing for the same frequency bands, and regulators around the world are trying to balance innovation with interference concerns. As more companies launch satellites and more devices connect directly to space, the pressure on spectrum allocation will only intensify. This is becoming a global negotiation, not just a technical issue. Another major challenge is congestion in low Earth orbit. Thousands of satellites are already in operation, and tens of thousands more are planned. Managing traffic in orbit, preventing collisions, tracking debris, and ensuring long-term sustainability is becoming a critical priority. Without effective space traffic management, the very infrastructure enabling global connectivity could become vulnerable. Security is also a growing concern. Satellite networks must be protected from cyber attacks, signal spoofing, and physical threats. A compromised satellite link doesn't just affect one user, it can disrupt communication across entire regions. As satellite-to-device communication becomes integrated into emergency response, transportation, and national systems, the stakes rise dramatically. And then there's the economic challenge. Building and maintaining global satellite constellations is expensive. Launch costs, ground stations, network operations, and device integration all require massive investment. The long-term success of this technology depends on sustainable business models that balance accessibility with financial viability. Despite these challenges, the momentum is undeniable. The industry is moving fast, governments are paying attention, and device manufacturers are already preparing for a hybrid future where terrestrial and satellite networks work together seamlessly. The road ahead is complex, but the destination is clear. A world where connectivity is universal, resilient, and no longer limited by geography. What this means for the future of connectivity. As we step back and look at the full picture, one thing becomes unmistakably clear. Satellite-to-device communication isn't just another upgrade in mobile technology, it's a foundational shift in how the world connects. For the first time, connectivity is no longer tied to geography, infrastructure, or population density. It's becoming a global utility, available anywhere the sky is visible. This technology will reshape industries, empower communities, and redefine expectations. Emergency response will become more resilient. Transportation networks will operate with greater precision. Global logistics will gain real-time visibility across every mile of a journey, and millions of people in underserved regions will gain access to communication tools that were once out of reach. But beyond the technical impact, there's a deeper transformation underway. We're entering an era where connectivity becomes ambient, always present, always available, always part of the environment. It's the next step in the digital revolution, enabling a world where information flows continuously, where devices collaborate seamlessly, and where distance no longer limits opportunity. The future of communication won't be defined by the nearest cell tower. It will be defined by the satellites orbiting above us, forming a global network that brings the entire world within reach. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of The Digital Revolution with Jim Kunkel. I want to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation to every one of you, the listeners, the subscribers, and the followers who continue to support this podcast. Your curiosity, your engagement, and your passion for understanding the technologies shaping our world are what make this podcast possible. Whether you're tuning in from a major city, a rural community, or somewhere in between, thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for sharing episodes, sending feedback, and helping grow this community of forward-thinking professionals. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow the podcast so you never miss what's coming next. Until then, stay informed, stay innovative, and keep leading the way in this digital revolution.